Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Comic-Con.
Oh, thank you very much.
We're
It's much less
recording.
crowded than it usually is.
Yes. The con crowd is apparently not that great this year. So, yeah, we're actually recording this in late June. I think you guys are going to be watching this in late July. So it'll be really interesting because we're recording this before Jim has done a lot of the other interviews, but you'll be seeing it after Jim has done a lot of interviews. So I'm hoping that I'll be asking questions that you haven't already seen like 30 times already.
Right.
But yes, so it'll be a fun.
Well, I believe the end of
experience.
July we have at the end of July we have the rabid spider monkey scheduled to come in.
Oh
So
yes, that was on my bingo card.
This will be the pre-rabid spider monkeys interview.
Yes, all that time before we all had pustules growing all over our faces. So.
Yes.
Okay, so the original plan for San Diego Comic-Con and your appearance was to do this grand celebration of 20 years of the Dresden Files. We might have to shift that to like the 25th anniversary or something because...
Well, we'll do 25.
Yeah.
25 is a big deal too,
Absolutely.
It's a prime, or no, it's not a prime number, but it's a square. So,
yes. Divides very evenly into 100 and yeah. Okay, so I still want to kind of honor the milestone anniversary, and so I have a few questions that are geared towards the 20th anniversary itself, a few questions geared to Peace Talks, and then if we have any time at the end, I have a bunch of like fan questions that are on sort of specific nitty-gritty aspects of the series.
Okay.
So yeah, let's jump in. So I guess getting into the anniversary stuff, in these 20 years that the Dresden Files have been around, what is the best experience you've had with the fan base?
I'm gonna have to say it was that first big panel at Dragon Con that I ever went to. Because I'd only gone to maybe a dozen conventions in my career at that point, and nobody knew who the hell I was. I had like 2 or 3 books out, and I would go to solo panels and no one would show up. I would go to readings and no one would show up. I'd just be sitting there all by myself in this room and like, aw. So I went to Dragon Con and I was expecting sort of the same thing to happen because they gave me a solo panel. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, and there's nobody going to be there, but at least I should be on time. That's professional. So I'm on the way down doing it. It's in one of the basement halls. And I get down at the bottom of the escalator and the hallway's just packed full of people, just full. I'm almost late because it takes a lot longer to get around Dragon Con than everywhere else.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, great. And I'm not only going to be humiliated, but I'm going to look like an amateur as well. And then I realize after a second that everybody in the hallway is staring at me. Like 300 people are just all staring at me. And I don't know what's going on. So, I'm like, what? Is there something on my face? And somebody says, are you Jim Butcher? And I'm like, do I owe you money? And they're like, no, we're here to see you. I said, what? And they're like, yeah, we're all here to see you. And the room's still the room's mostly full, and we're just the spillover here in the hallway. And I'm like, and you had nothing better to do? Was sort of my first reaction. But that was the first time. Yeah, and then they were nice to me, and they laughed at my jokes and stuff like that. And that was the first time that had ever happened.
Dragon Con people are good people.
I had been writing, and when you set off as a writer, it is a lonely path. I mean, you're doing it all yourself. Mm-hmm. It's hard to get people to read your stuff. It's hard to do all of it. So when I realized that I wasn't all by myself, necessarily, that was a big surprise. I'm still not quite sure how to deal with that, but there it is. That was probably the most positive thing I've had go on.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
What would you say is the weirdest?
I married a fan. So, that's you pretty much won your fandom when you've done that. When you marry the author you're a fan of. So, yeah.
Sort of dual question. What has been your favorite scene to write, and what has been your favorite fan reaction to a scene?
It's tough to say. Probably my favorite fan reactions would probably have to be from the various sex scenes or almost sex scenes, especially the almost sex scene. That always gets to everyone.
The beta response that was just table flips.
Yeah, exactly. But probably the one that I'm really proudest of is when Harry first meets Maggie, and that's also that got a lot of reaction out of people as well. So
yeah, oh God.
Yeah, so maybe there. Yeah, she's all, "Do you want to be my dad?" He's like, "Okay," you know.
So in these 20 years, we've had a bunch of different adaptations from the graphic novel series, the RPG, the 2007 series on the Sci-Fi Channel. What has been, what is your favorite adaptation that you did not personally script? So like Welcome to the Jungle is not in consideration. Because you wrote the script to that.
Right. Probably I was most impressed with the role-playing game. The Dresden Files RPG, those guys, they went above and beyond the Call of Duty. I mean, to an absurd degree. And I really think that they produced the best stuff out of anybody who I've worked with. They were the ones who have shown the most rabid, with the exception of a few artists that are here that are doing Dresden art here and there. They're the ones that have shown the most rabid enthusiasm. Of course, they were organized, so they had more enthusiasm to work with.
Yeah, with some of the the marginalia in the RPG, there are some people that are like, "Are you sure Jim didn't write this? Are you sure?" Just because, that they nail your voice so well.
Yeah, I was one of those people. So, yeah.
Nice. If someone were to make a Dresden video game, what style would you like to see? Like, are there games whose vibe or mechanics you would want to see?
Oh, I'm gonna say Fallout, just because I've played many, many hours of Fallout.
Nice.
So I'm gonna say Fallout.
Getting back to Welcome to the Jungle, what was your favorite part of writing that script and learning that new medium?
In retrospect, my favorite part was learning the differences between writing the scripts, and what the job of the writer is in a comic book. And it's way different than the job of a writer of a novel, of course. But it was learning those differences that in retrospect was the most fun. At the time, it was incredibly frustrating. But looking back at it, it's like, oh, yeah, I guess if I write this many paragraphs in this little 2x2 inch picture, they won't be able to see the picture, and then it's not a novel. It's not a graphic novel. It's just a novel at that point. So that was the most interesting thing.
You've talked about wanting to do 2 spin-offs, one with Maggie at Smagged, and the other with Goodman Gray and Levitica. What is the timeline that you envision on those? Like, do you want them to be concurrent with the series as it's happening, or is that like afterwards and you're paying off gambling debts and all that good stuff?
Goodman Gray's stuff would come afterwards for sure. I don't know about Maggie's story. I mean, it would have to be running concurrently because we're going to write a story about a kid. You got to write a story about a kid. So I don't know yet. I mean, that's stuff that is still in the future, and right now there's other stuff that I'm working on. So
nice. And not technically an adaptation, but at least another element of someone else collaborating with what you're creating. The phenomenal audiobooks by James Marsters. Have you ever been tempted to write a character's specific voice just to see what kind of voice James would bring to the table?
Well, not until now. All right. Challenge accepted.
Yes.
All
I
right,
know
I'll
you've
do
listened to some of the audiobooks just with your assistant, sort of getting her into the series while you're going off on LARPs and stuff. Have you listened to any of the audiobooks for Alera or Cinderspires?
Yes. I mean, I've gone through and listened to all the readers.
Oh, nice.
And it's just fun, hearing the different voices and hearing the slightly different takes on story. That's a lot of fun as well. I like it when somebody surprises me with something in my own story because they read it differently than I meant it. And that's always fun.
All right. So jumping into Peace Talks and Battleground. Hopefully anyone watching this at this point knows that there are 2 Dresden books coming out this year. So just for anyone that is sort of new to the table, like what made that happen? What inspired that?
I was trying to build a better mousetrap with this book, and so what I did, what the plan was to write about 2/3 of a novel to kind of get to the big, dun 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 dun, exciting part of the novel, and then to have it, suddenly wrench to one side and race off in a new direction that nobody was expecting. Which is what I was, that was the original goal. And when I wrote it, and it took an extra long time to write because I'm trying to build a better mousetrap, and my editor reads over it and basically says, Jim, you haven't built a better mousetrap, you've built a complicated one that doesn't work as good. So maybe what we need to do is, maybe this needs to be 2 stories. What do you think about that? I'm like, well, then I'm gonna have to go back and rewrite, a third of the first book and a third of the second book. She's like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, cool, okay, I'll do that. So I expanded the story plot on the first book in terms of conflict between characters and that kind of thing. And then in the second book, I had to add in some extra action scenes and a better beginning. But once that was done, that wasn't too hard. So it panned out. I mean, it turned out with 2 books that are a little bit leaner, but I think way stronger than the one big one would have been.
Very
Plus,
much, yes.
she said, yeah, this thing is going to be so huge, we're going to have to charge $50 for a hardback. And I don't want to be the first guy to be the $50 hardback guy. I don't want to be the first guy to break that event horizon. So, like, yeah, let's do a couple of different books, but we got to put them out back to back, because the only way I can do this is if I cliffhang it. And if I do that and they have to wait a year for another book, I'm going to get miseried before Christmas.
Oh, God.
So it's got to come out back to back months, and they're like, well, you're at this point, we can't do back to back months because we've already got we've already got a big fish in the schedule right here, but we can do 60 days apart. And I'm like, okay, that'll have to do it. So we've got one coming out in July, and the second one comes out in September.
Nice.
So you don't have to wait a year for it.
Excellent. Yes, unfortunately, your ferocious guard dog that would prevent you from getting misery is more about just getting kisses and belly rubs.
He really is, and snacks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is Brew around? Oh,
he is here.
Baby. Hello, handsome Brew face.
He's curled up on my feet.
That is like the only good thing to come out of this horrible pandemic. Like, we get to see more of our friends' dogs and cats and
yes,
cats because of all the Zoom
pets are
chats.
awesome. Dogs are awesome. Cats are awesome. They're way cooler than people.
So for folks that haven't been able to fully reread the series, or who might be new to Dresden entirely, what would you think is the most important thing for them to know or remember when jumping into these 2 books?
Well, if you're new to the series, this will be a very busy book for you. Otherwise, even if you're new to the series, you might want to start a little bit earlier, maybe with Deadbeat or maybe with Changes. Those would both be good places to jump in.
Changes would be a very difficult place to jump in.
Yeah, but a lot of people have, and it's been successful. So,
nice. Okay.
But anyway, where were we? Hang on, we were talking about
what is important for people to know, sort of going in, or to
I don't know. Have fun. The important thing to remember is that these books are not supposed to mean anything. Just remember that. I mean, these are popcorn novels. Now, I like to think they're the best popcorn around, but they're popcorns. Don't take them too serious.
Excellent. Are there specific books that you would recommend people like make a point of rereading before going in, or just?
No, I mean, I didn't, but I know a lot of folks are rereading the series again. I would encourage you not to do that, because then people won't notice as many mistakes. Yeah.
Really putting the betas through our paces. Excellent.
Yes, exactly.
So this interview will be first aired like after the book has come out. So a lot of people that are watching this will have already read the book, though of course some people might not have gotten around to it yet.
Right.
So without being too spoilery, is there a specific scene of Peace Talks that you most enjoyed writing, and which scene, I guess, gave you the most difficulty?
I mean, there was lots of scenes that gave me great difficulty. I probably enjoyed the Big Bad's entry a lot in this one. That was a lot of fun to write. I mean, that was just over the top, and I had a lot of fun writing that one. Let me think what else. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. I mean, you know, I'm just writing my dumb wizard stories, man. I don't really enjoy or not enjoy things more than the other. I'm just doing the story over here. You know, I like the work. I like typing. You know, I like putting images, getting images in my head and trying to put them over there in your head. You know.
Yes.
But you know,
Very
but that's
cinematic
I mean that's the fun part of the job. I mean, some things do come out a lot better than others. For example, I think that the Christmas short story I wrote, you know, that came out amazing. I wrote the entire thing in about 40 minutes, sitting on the floor outside the massage therapist's office, waiting for Kitty to be done. And I wrote that whole thing, and it came out just tear-jerkingly beautiful. And I never planned it. I just was writing it because I was bored. And it's like, oh wow, great! One of the best things I've ever written. I cry when I read that. Man, why can't I do that when I mean to do it? You know?
Yeah, I think it took me longer to beta it than it took you to write it.
Could be.
And the version with the illustrations with Adam Ford.
Moment there, yeah.
Let's see. Is there a certain type of music that you're listening to while writing Peace Talks in Battleground that might make for a good like Dresden duology playlist for the fans?
I was listening to like the 5 hours of Viking death metals compilations on YouTube mostly. Also, whenever I start doing epic, I run and oh gosh, I can't remember his name now, but he's the composer of the soundtrack of Conan the Barbarian, Basil Polidorus. He did Conan the Barbarian. He's done a lot of movies where the music is like really really good, but it's also kind of. It's just a little bit dramatic and over the top as well. So it's sort of old style melodrama music rather than the new style that's all blah. But whenever you want to write epic stuff, you know, listen to epic music. So you know, I had a huge playlist of everything that he ever did. You know, that I listened to.
So you had mentioned that like with every book you write, you try to level up your craft and stretch yourself to something different, and you had a little bit more challenge this time. If you were in a situation where you were forced to start from scratch, like with everything that you know now, how would you maybe have approached things differently, or do you not like?
I don't know. I mean, if the person I am right now would not have written the crazy, over-the-top, bombastic stuff that you know was in some of the early Dresden Files stuff. You know, people getting crushed by frozen turkeys, and so on. You know, I don't know if I'd be the guy that writes that now. So I don't want to second guess that guy. Things have gone so well. I'm a little superstitious about second guessing that guy. You know, to be honest with you. If I was doing it again, I would probably set things up a little bit differently. I would probably begin the story at a slightly different place. You know, I might show more of Dresden when he was younger. I might start a little bit earlier in his story, and do a little bit more. You know, a little bit more of the is he a good guy or is he not question. You know, from the get-go. And yeah, I would have written him to where he got accused of a lot of things, but never thought about them in his inner monologue. You know, so you would only have known what other people who look at him from the outside know. And then, you know, and then the idea would have been to make the readers guess, you know, which way he was going to go. You know, that would have been a lot of fun.
Nice.
Yeah, I might work with something like that in the future. We'll see.
What is the first totally frivolous thing Harry buys with his gym sock full of diamonds?
Probably the first totally frivolous thing he buys will be a basketball goal for inside the Great Hall. And you haven't read the second book yet, so you don't know. But that's the answer, and you'll understand it in time.
Excellent.
Okay.
Let's see. Scrolling past that stuff. So there are a couple things that like questions that appear in a lot of interviews that I'm going to challenge you to answer slightly differently from answers we've heard in the past. Okay. One question that I've enjoyed hearing you think about is how some side characters have grown past your expectations for them. And you always give Butters as a really spectacular example of that. And I'm wondering if there are others that you want to elaborate about.
Yeah, Toot was just, I mean, he was just a little informer guy in the first time he appeared, Toot. And he's, I mean, he was a fun character and he was popular, so I kept bringing him back just when I needed, you know, some kind of little dinky thing to do things with. And then, you know, the jokes started coming, and after that was happening, it's like, okay, well, he's got to get more involved. Okay, now I have to start thinking about where these, you know, where pixies come from and what they do. I can't just have him be this little thing. And so he, I mean, over time, he grew and grew. There were other characters who, you know, were meant to be much more involved. When I first wrote Carmichael, he was going to be the long-term Murphy and Carmichael partner.
Oh, wow.
But instead I killed him. You know, these things happen.
At what point did you realize he needed to die?
It was right after the werewolf had ripped him apart.
You thought he was going to get better?
Well, you know, I mean, it was like, oh, I just killed that guy. Yeah, that happened. All right, moving on. You know.
Are there any characters whose reaction from the fan base really surprised you, like latching onto a minor character or disliking a character that you really liked, or vice versa?
Oh my gosh, the attachment to Lashiel was amazing.
Yeah.
You know, the imaginary girlfriend who can look like whatever she wants to look like. You know, that was something that went over a lot stronger than I ever thought it would, for sure. Morricone's got a lot more fans than I ever thought he would have. Because there are a lot.
You know, the internet. You knew people were going to latch onto Morricone. Come on.
Well, no. When I started writing it, we didn't have much of an internet.
Oh, that's true. Yes.
I mean, I started this thing in '96. You know, so I think Morricone's in chapter 2 or 3. Chapter 3. Yeah. Yeah. So you know, people surprise you.
Nice. Do you have a favorite hilariously false crack theory?
No, because there's been so many of them that they're all just kind of this mush in my head right now. Where I mean, I kind of stick them in the same storage space as the bad writing ideas that I don't use, you know. So I can't think of one offhand that is my particular crack theory. Although I did notice a video go by in my feed on YouTube today of a Reddit thread of Dresden Files crack theory, and the video is best of Dresden Files crack theory. And so
oh my gosh, I need to look that up.
Yeah, I've got that bookmarked. I'm going to go watch that later today.
Excellent. So one of the things that has really impressed me as you talk about your own writing process is how much your subconscious works for you. And so I'm wondering if there's an example of a hook that you placed in the story, sort of sensing that it was going to lead to somewhere, but you weren't really sure where it was going to lead yet. And then it ended up being.
No, because when that happens, you don't know it's happening. I mean, you kind of look back at it later and go, oh yeah, I hadn't really planned all of that, you know. But at the same time, when you look back at the structure that you've built, when there's things that logically look like they could be linked together, and linking them together seems a smart thing to do. Yeah, I mean, I'm one of those writers who writes very instinctively. I will, if my instincts start telling me there's something wrong, I'll stop. If my instincts tell me there's a better way to do it, then I'll delete what I've gotten and I'll keep looking for the better way. So I run into stuff like that all the time because I'll throw in little details for no reason. It'll just be like, I felt like I needed to throw in this little detail about, you know, we've seen a black bird early in this story. Oh, I mentioned the black bird. Okay, I'm going to mention this black bird again. Well, now I mentioned it 2 times. I got to mention it 3 times. So I suppose I better make it part of the story. You know, and that is, you know, that's basically how that kind of process works. A lot of it gets done, you know, in your subconscious. Your subconscious kind of throws out a little idea for you and points out, hey, you're missing something obvious. And so, you know, then when you realize, oh, hey, I was missing something obvious, let me fix this and make it better. And that's a good way to go. Always trust your instincts as a writer.
Nice. So now I'm going to jump into some fan questions that were submitted on Reddit and Facebook.
Okay.
So the question that had like ridiculously by far the most upvotes on Reddit, like 50% more upvotes than anything else. And I know that you're not actually going to be able to answer this, but have we, the audience, met Cal without his cowl? Like, is this a character that we would recognize?
Yeah, see, that's one of those questions that even if I refuse to answer it, it's an answer. It's a good question. Yeah, because no matter what answer I mean, no matter yes or no, what answer I give on that, it gives away something.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a question. Yeah, I'm not going to tell you.
First, I'm not going to tell you that.
Yeah, well, yeah. Because you don't need to know that. That's ruining the fun. What's wrong with you asking questions like that? Jeez.
Curse you, 50% more people.
Yes.
All right, let's see. Jumping into some sort of character-related questions. We know from Zude that Mouse's magic works by making everything just a little bit better by sort of his proximity, like easier and luckier for his friends. Are there any specific times that things would have gone like very, very difficult, very differently, like much more off the rails, like if not for that influence?
Yeah, all those Mexican standoffs in Turncoat. That would have been very different without Mouse. Yeah.
Nice. I guess I'll go to Morricone next because everyone loves Morricone. So construction would have needed to start immediately after Harry's death, as you mentioned in of the Brighter Future Society, meaning that he already had plans in place. So like, where was he planning on building the castle before the real estate opportunity showed up? Like how did that all happen? Is that something for like not for this early in the morning?
That's something that you don't need to know. I mean, that's part of the story.
Did he at least inherit the Brownie cleaning staff?
Did he what?
Did he inherit the Brownie?
No. There was a whole new thing set up. It didn't even really have much of a threshold for a while. That was screwing everything up until they moved some families in there in order to get a threshold out of the deal. So, that's Morricone's style. It's like, oh, helping families is the most effective way. Yeah, all right, we'll do that.
Good for business.
Yeah.
Does Morricone have the bullet that killed Harry?
He's got more than one. he's got more than one bullet for killing Dresden with.
No. Like in Even Hand, we see the power that like the bullets used to kill heroes possess, and so we're wondering if he managed to find the bullet that killed him and changes.
Oh. I wonder. It's possible. It's not highly likely, because Kincaid just wasn't that far away. He was maybe a couple 100 yards away. It wasn't much of a shot for him. Mm-hmm. But when you're using really high-powered rounds and you hit something solid with it, it tends to shatter them. Mm-hmm. Something that's harder and more rigid than a squishy human. It'll make a hole, but it'll also shatter them as it goes through. I think it'd be considerably harder to recover modern bullets than old ones, because the old ones were like this big around. Mm-hmm. They were considerably more massive. You get shot with a 75 caliber pistol bullet. That's considerably different than a modern bullet coming out of a 22. Even if the modern bullet is actually more dangerous to you in some ways.
Mm-hmm. Will we get to know more about how Morricone discovered the supernatural and about his patriotic youth?
Maybe. I don't know. Part of the thing that makes Morricone is you don't know about him. Mm-hmm. Yes. So I don't know. We'll have to see.
Good point. Excellent. Has Lady Molly made any frenemies among the Fae?
No, actually, not very many at all. Because she's actually doing her job, and she's actually got a lot of respect among the Fae, and she's just frozen and shattered, half a dozen of them who got out of line. She's hanging out in the Winter Court now. You play for keeps over there. Mm-hmm. They always challenge you. There are times where you got to off somebody just for everybody else to go, oh yeah, he's qualified. Yeah.
Hopefully folks will have, I'm actually not sure if I can bank on people of having read at least the sample chapters. Let's see. Very quickly changing directions. All right, so yeah, I think I'm going to leave this question out. With Leah in Changes and her creepy murder garden, was that something that she specifically created in the Never Never equivalent of Harry's backyard, or did she already have a creepy murder garden that she somehow managed to link to Harry's apartment?
Oh, she already had a creepy murder garden. Let's not confuse anything about that. But yeah, yeah, all she had to do was link up her demoscene to Harry's, to a location near Harry, and do a lot of manipulating of the Never Never. I mean, it's like a big project. It's like a building your own house project,
Mm-hmm.
But it got done.
Nice. So with the cosmology of the series, how do the various pantheon of gods coexist with each other? In terms of the actual creation of the universe.
In terms of the actual creation of the universe, that's a big
Mm-hmm.
question. And in the Dresden Files world, the creation of the universe is something that happened outside of linear time,
Mm-hmm.
which makes it essentially completely incomprehensible to something as simple as we are.
Mm-hmm.
We're all just kind of floating down the stream of time. That's how we time travel, is we just float down the stream that way. But before there was a stream, the universe was a weird place, because there couldn't be a cause and effect if there wasn't a before and after. So that means it's something that you just can't comprehend, because our entire life is based on cause and effect. Everything we experience in life is based on, well, I did this and then this happened as a result. So it's something that I think is a big enough event that mortals couldn't really understand it. And a lot of things changed afterwards, especially with Lucifer getting up to his nonsense, doing the Angel War. The way it works in the Dresden Files universe is that all the gods have really confused imaginations of that time, or really confused recollections of that time. Like, they get bits and pieces of it, but it's that party you were really, really drunk at, and you only sort of remember things when somebody says something about it, and you go, oh yeah, I vaguely remember something about that happening, and that's sort of their experience of the before time. So the basic idea is that these are beings of incredible power, and that humans don't really understand them very well, and so we try and put them into things into shapes that we can understand and comprehend and deal with. But it just doesn't work very well, because there's such a huge incompatibility between us squishy meat bags and people who are made of pure energy.
That may be my favorite explanation for the differences in religious ideology and such.
Right.
Oh, that makes me happy. Okay. Several fans have asked how various supernatural influences merge and combine, like when two different types of creatures try to breed, could a half Bigfoot, half White Court vampire exist? Or if Thomas picked up a coin, would the fallen angel clash with the hunger?
Right. Well, you got to take. I would have to take all of those on a case-by-case basis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there would be an issue with the demon and the hunger. If a White Court vampire picked up a fallen coin, there would be a power struggle, and the hunger would be on the short end of that stick.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not as powerful an entity. But as far as reproduction and scions and stuff go, all the supernatural stuff is I kind of think of it as like an old D&D template. It's something that you add on, to something that's already there. Mouse is a dog, but he's got the supernatural temple dog template, that gives him his superpowers.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it would have to go on a case-by-case basis, though. Generally speaking, there's a big line between mortals and everything that isn't immortal, and that line is free will.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it exists in the Dresden Files universe. So it's questionable. It becomes questionable as to how much free will various entities have.
Mm-hmm.
And the more powerful you get, and many times the less free will you have to operate it with. Mab has to fulfill her role to be Mab. All her vast supernatural cosmic power is useless outside of the arena that it was meant for. She doesn't have free will to just go throwing it around anywhere she wants. And most supernatural entities are like that.
Do aliens on other planets have their own never-nevers?
Well, I mean, if there are aliens on other planets, we don't know. Having never been to one, we really are. We're such toddlers. We crawled out of the crib once for a few minutes in in the late '60s, and since then, we just sort of hang out. But I don't know. I think it would vary on a world by world basis. I don't think the whole universe would look the same. That seems like a waste of space.
Mm-hmm. Can you get to Alara through the Never Never?
In theory, yeah. Yeah, I mean I mean it's if we run reality on a spectrum, Amber style, from complete chaos to complete order, and every possibility in between exists somewhere in the way, then yeah, that's partly the never. That's the never never. That's the vast possibility.
How have the world and the characters of the Dresden Files changed as you've just changed as a human being and seen more of the world?
I don't know. I've gotten to be better at writing them, by which I mean I write less. I think that's really the core of becoming really, really good at writing, is figuring out what not to write.
Mm-hmm.
Making sure you only put there what needs to be there, and anything else, don't put it there. But I mean, as far as how characters and stuff has changed, traveling the world hasn't particularly done that. I've done a lot of traveling, but really what I found out by traveling the world is that traveling makes you tired. So that's really mostly what I've learned about traveling. But I write the characters. I try and think of what they're doing in their lives. I try and write, what comes next. People who are, struggling and striving, they're going to encounter new things, and they're going to change as time goes on. And so that's always the first thing I ask myself when I come back to a new book, and every time I introduce a new character, how has this character changed? Mm-hmm. And so I stop and go through their life and figure out what's different.
Nice. Was it disorienting in Skin Game, Harry suddenly being disconnected from Demon Reaches in Electus after a year and a half of living on the island and knowing exactly what impact every footstep is going to have?
Yeah, he was probably stubbing his toe an extra large amount for the first morning or two, tripping over things, bumping into people, because they were getting too close, and he's just used to just knowing everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that
would be like being without your iPhone, suddenly not being able to look up everything at a moment's notice.
Maybe. I spent most of my life without that, so it seems normal to me,
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Where is the thin gray line between ectomancy and necromancy? What is the most an ectomancer can legally do?
The thing about the thing about an ectomancer is he's not actually doing anything that's anywhere close to necromancy. Mm-hmm. An ectomancer is working with and communicating with an energy field that happens to be shaped like a human being and to have a human being's memories. Mm-hmm. Necromancy is actually using life force and doing things with it. Mm-hmm. It's not the same thing at all. It's one of those things that it could edge over real quick, and you could cover necromancy with ectomancy really good. Mm-hmm. So it's something that the wardens are still suspicious about, but it's really not. It's not something that they just go, oh, talking to ghosts is one of the most common things you can do in the supernatural world. That's why seances are a thing.
How have predatory supernatural powers been using the internet? Or the white court, the sexy singles in your area?
Yeah. White court, white court just grabs Tinder, or for that matter, they could order up Uber Eats or DoorDash and just say, hey, driver. And other vampire stuff like that too. A lot of them won't mess with it at all because it's weird human magic. It's pheromancy.
Tinder is their Uber Eats.
Yeah. And also the supernatural world. It tends to be a very old-fashioned sort of place. There's a lot of immortals. There's a lot of people who have lived several centuries, involved in it. So all this new stuff is confusing and frightening. And it's not something that they would be into a lot, but the ones that are closer to humans would, they would use it for whatever it is they need for a given thing. The Lenanchi, I mean, if she was trying to make her bones now, instead of inspiring artists, she could inspire athletes. You know, I mean, it's that kind of thing, you know. It's like, yes, it'll kill you slowly, but you'll be the greatest gamer alive. You know, I know so many people who would take that. You know, they would make that deal with the devil right away.
Everyone on TikTok would make that deal.
Yeah.
Let's see. Is there a power or power set that you wanted to give Harry but decided against it for whatever reason?
No. I mean, yeah, Harry. Yeah, I mean, he was, when I first started writing him, he was a lot more precise and a lot better at it. And then I decided it's a lot more fun if he kind of sucks at magic. I mean, because, you know, we'll have some things that he can do that he's real good at that are like his classroom things, but, you know, other stuff, not so much. So that was a lot more fun. And it also gave me a much easier time creating an arc for the characters to develop. Because, you know, I mean, I just had this perfect pacing. All right, in this book, Harry's going to learn how to do this. And this one, he finally can do a fireball, you know, like
that. I did not anticipate us going through these questions so quickly. So I'm going to sort of look back just to see what I might have missed. I think we have like maybe 10 minutes left before we hit an hour. I guess you were just talking about like Harry's progression and such. With regards to adaptation, like, are there any aspects, any aspects of Harry's character that you would consider like inviolate that you would definitely want to make sure is carried into another adaptation? And on the flip side, are there any aspects that fans would be surprised to hear that you're really chill about, that you don't mind changing?
Well, I mean, I don't mind changing anything about his appearance at all. I mean, I just kind of wrote a generic appearance for him in many ways. So I mean, like, especially if it goes to other mediums, I don't really care what Harry looks like. I care what he behaves like. What was the first part of the question again? Which things are inviolate?
Yes.
Harry's never going to hurt a kid or an animal. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I probably wouldn't know it until I saw it happening and went, oh my God, that's the worst. Which I assume would happen quite easily. But I don't know.
Let's see. Getting away from Dresden, is there, like, what are you reading right now?
Right now I'm going through Rogers Zelazny's Amber Chronicles again. They're old friends, and I haven't visited them in a while, so I'll be doing that for another couple of weeks. And then Robert Parker, you know, pretty much always Robert Parker.
Nice. Is there a book or a book series that you wish you could read again for the first time?
Anything by Parker, yeah. There's actually one book that Parker's written that I haven't read, and I will not read it, because as long as I haven't read it, there's always one more Parker book to read.
I'm exactly the same way about Terry Pratchett.
Yep, there you go.
Is there a question that you wish people would ask you, but no one ever does?
Not that I can think of. Yeah, people ask me questions, answering them can't do anything but get me into trouble, you know, so.
When Joss Whedon was asked that question, he said, "Have you lost weight?"
Yeah, that's a good answer.
What is your workout routine these days?
Well, these days, what with the virus and all, there's not a gym to be in, so I'm working out in the yard and outside. So I'm doing a lot of hiking, and mostly it's hiking because, you know, it's impossible to get like good adjustable dumbbells right now. They're all sold out, and you know, that's the most practical thing you could possibly have for a home workout. And so it's just been a bunch of hiking and watching my diet close, so I don't add on, you know, extra.
Nice, excellent. So I think that's actually the full list of what I set aside to ask.
Oh, excellent.
So
good enough.
Yeah. Anything that's sort of coming up in the future that you're excited about, that you want to talk about with regards to Peace Talks to the Year? I suppose I should mention with the Year of Dresden. So every Tuesday on jim-butcher.com, not like you got to remember that hyphen is there. We have been releasing new material, so like microfictions, little mini stories that are going on behind the scenes of some of the other books. We have like spotlights on artwork in the series, sort of like retrospectives of like just really cool things that have happened in the last 20 years. New merchandise is coming out from Bid Alley Jewelry, and yeah, just like lots of really cool things. So you'll definitely want to check out like every Tuesday on jim-butcher.com. But yeah, are there any things that you're excited about to make sure that fans know about?
Yeah, but I can't talk about them yet.
Ooh, okay, excellent. Very cool. Well, thank you so much for making the time. We're glad that we were able to have you here at San Diego Comic-Con. But yeah, hope you have a great day.
All right, thank you very much. Take care, y'all. Bye-bye.